Well, good morning, gang. Today we leave Naples for the beautiful Isle of Capri. And what we're doing there, this actually wasn't even going to be on the trip until a week and a half ago when I saw the movie. It Started in Naples, starring Clark Gable and Sophia Loren. We're going there, and I'm going to do the filming locations today, and that's how we're going to see the island. Daze with Jordan the Lion begins now. So let me tell you a little bit about the story. For one, why I'm doing this is because actually up until a week and a half ago I'd never even seen the movie. It was something that on the Clark Gable page on Facebook, somebody posted a picture from this movie and then said the name of the movie, and I go, well, if it's called It Started in Naples, it must have taken place in Naples. So I immediately started watching it and found out for about 5% of the movie it's in Naples, and then it moves over to Capri, so that's why we're going to Capri. Now, there are no filming locations online for this movie. Zero. It only says the island and Naples as being filming locations, so I had to get on Google Earth and look up everything myself, so this is going to be even more fun for me. Now, the backstory on this movie is that Clark Gable plays about a 60-year-old lawyer from Philadelphia whose brother ran away from Philadelphia and his wife 12 years before and moved to Italy. Found a woman, had a kid, borrowed a bunch of money for fireworks, never paid it back, and then both he and his wife died and the child was left. So Clark Gable comes from Philadelphia to settle the affairs, find out what all the money he was loaning was being spent on, and finds out that his brother had a son. Now, one of my favorite comments in this is when Clark Gable says, "My brother was a no-good so-and-so in any sense of the word, unless he changed over the last couple of years," and the lawyer he's talking to just kind of smiles and changes the subject. So it's a great movie. Clark Gable plays kind of an old fuddy-duddy for a while until he falls in love with Sophia Loren. So this is a movie that stars Clark Gable and a 25-year-old Sophia Loren. So when Clark takes off to the Isle of Capri, he's on a boat very similar to this and says, "I headed 2 seasick hours to the Isle of Capri." Well, ours is only going to be an hour and a half, but I found just about every spot from the movie that I wanted to. Now, I was told when I was in Pompeii that Capri was actually, it was a beautiful island that even the emperors would go to vacation. He actually said they would never go to Pompeii, they would have always gone to Capri. So this has a long history, and I would equate this, if you've ever been to Catalina in California, that's kind of what it appears like on the movie. So we'll see if that matches up. Now, I splurged a little because I was so excited to do this vlog. I didn't want to be under any time constraints, so what I did was I went ahead and booked an apartment. So I'll be spending the night in Capri, and then tomorrow we will take off and head to Rome. I guess that means it's go time. Well, it may have started in Naples, but we're gonna end it in Capri. Goodbye, Napoli. So Sophia Loren basically plays the aunt of the little boy that Clark Gable's brother had with her sister. And so she's taking care of the boy named Nando. Clark Gable's coming out here to settle the affairs and to see if Nando is really, truly his nephew. I can't believe we are here. There's Lucia's house. And this building right here, this red one with the white arches, that is how I matched up everything for this movie. Once I found that online, I knew this was a go. And right about now in the movie is when Clark Gable puts his wallet in his front jacket pocket, insinuating that they're gonna try and rob him blind while he's here. And when Clark Gable's boat docks, he actually docks right here. That's where we see him get off the boat. Somebody tries to help him with his luggage and he says, "My clothes wouldn't fit you," and rips his bags away. Well, there's Marina Grande that Lucia mentions. And this is where Clark Gable and our story begin here in Capri. Now, as Clark's boat is landing, you can actually see this all in the background over his shoulder. So he would have docked right around here. So you can see that wall in the background. And then the guy would have tried to help him with his bags right about here.
No thanks, my clothes wouldn't fit you.
Because you see all this in the background. Like I said, I matched everything up off this building, but this white building you can actually see right over his shoulder. right here. So he starts making his way down this way. So where we meet the little boy Nando is actually, he's walking right along this pier. I'm gonna walk us over there and kind of match up the shot. There was a little ticket sales booth there, but it was more kind of see-through. It was more bare bones than this one is. So it's right about here we see Nando walking, trying to sell the flowers to the tourists getting off the boat. And he walks them all along here, and the lady says, well, I'll give you money, but I don't really want the flower. He says, oh, it's okay, lady. I give you the flower anyway. I made plenty of money today. And so she's like, oh, what a sweet boy.
I don't want any flowers, but you take this.
No, lady, it's alright. I got enough man today.
So they continue walking along here, and then you see Nando run up to this. You see him right up there, and that's where the horse with all the flowers on it is, and he takes the flowers that he didn't sell and puts them kind of in the tail or the butt of the horse. So this is the angle we would have had of Clark talking to Nando, looking at him and seeing how dirty he was and saying, the Queen of Aragon, I bet there isn't a bathtub in her whole kingdom.
The Queen of Aragon. I'll bet there isn't a bathtub in her entire kingdom.
And you can actually match it up with the same bricks on the ground. They've repaved over a little bit of this, but you can see, especially with that one, that they were more square like that. And then right about here we would have seen him look at Nando's face, and Nando would have said, what are you looking at, sport? Clark would have said, the evidence, the unassailable evidence.
What do you look at, sport?
The evidence. The unassailable living evidence.
And then you would have seen a woman with vivacious curves walk by. Nando would have turned his head and looked at her. Clark would have looked at him and said, welcome to the family, and shook his hand.
Welcome to the family.
Insinuating that the family is full of womanizers. Well, the first shot we see of Clark Gable entering this section is on the horse and carriage with Nando, with a man that lives here, with Nando and Lucia, and they park right here.
Here it is, sport.
Because Clark is looking for the Palazzo de Real. And that's where that sign would have been.
Is this it?
Si,
Villa del Palazzo Real?
si, Villa Royal Palace.
Now, surprisingly, it looks somewhat similar. You can tell they've patched up over that box that was there, and then there was another one like kind of right there. But we pan up and we actually see that is where Sophia's apartment is. It looks like they're working on it. Maybe I can talk him into let me go in. So we see that, and then we see him go in there. Clark Gable goes in there and tries to, basically he's just trying to find out what happened. What happened to all the money that he sent his brother, and he just wanted answers to the family. And when he goes to leave, he and Nando have a conversation right here at these rails.
You know my father?
Yes, I knew your father.
You and him, brother?
Yes.
Right here, Nando would be saying, it wasn't my father's fault. Nobody could afford the fireworks, but it was very beautiful.
They were very, very pretty. Bellissimi, bellissimi.
I'm sure they were.
And then we would have had the shot of Clark right there smiling as he was getting ready to leave. Now right here is where Clark Gable and Nando are standing while the parade that Lucia is kind of the queen of is going along this street. They're actually standing right there, and that's when Nando says, you're gonna marry her, that's great, that's gonna be great.
Take care, huh?
Me?
And Clark Gable actually crouches down right there.
Nando. Can I talk to you man to man?
And he's looking basically right here. And he's saying, Nando, you know, sometimes people are just having fun, and it doesn't necessarily mean anything.
You know, sometimes two people can have a little happiness with without tying themselves down.
But this would have been the entryway to their apartment. I don't know if they use the actual apartment or not. Looks like they're doing some work, so I may go ask. So we lucked out. This guy's nice enough to let me see it, and he said they actually did film this here. They have turned this into multiple apartments. So they've put this up, but the staircase was right here. So the kitchen would have been right here where they're cooking. Oops. And they would have been eating right here. And then Nando's view when he's watching Sophia Loren and Clark Gable is right there. And they would have been lighting off the fireworks. That would have all been set up right over here. When he looks out and sees them all going off in the sky, Clark's set up right over there, and Nando comes running out, and that's when Gable says, I need a professional to help me. If we don't have a professional, it's over. It's arrivederci. So he runs over and they light off the fireworks. So the gentleman that let me come in here, he said this was his grandfather's house when the movie was filmed, and then his father's, and now it's his house. Thank you so much, man. That was so nice of you.
5 o'clock in the morning. 5 o'clock. A fine time.
Yes, a fine time.
5 o'clock in the morning. That's where Nando would have been, right there. So how about that? How about that? I lucked out. The guy that actually owns the place let me go out there. Now, what he said was that balcony scene when they go out there, and that's where she's basically pleading with Clark Gable, you can't take him from me. She's basically putting on an act. She goes, you can't take him from me. He's all I've got, you know. Probably not, like, she does want to keep Nando, but she's overdoing it a bit. He said that wasn't filmed right there. It was actually around the corner. I'll show you. So that was actually filmed right up here. That's where all those peppers and garlic and grapes and everything would have been hanging, and right up on the corner is where they would have that conversation where she says, you can't take him from me, and Clark Gable says, I think you misunderstand. Take him from you? I'm not trying to take him from you. What would I do with him? I'm supposed to be getting married the day after tomorrow. It's pretty awesome. As soon as I went up there, I said, do you speak any English? I thought he was just like a worker there. And he said, yeah, sort of. I pulled my laptop out, or not my laptop, but my tablet out, and brought it up on the screen, and the moment it came on there, he immediately goes, oh yeah, and took me over to this window and said, the little boy, that's the window that the little boy's looking out of. And then right here, where they're selling all that merchandise, is where Nando would have been sitting on the boat, that little like boat laying on its side at the end of the night, smoking a cigarette, an 8-year-old smoking a cigarette. And that's when Sophia Loren comes in and goes, what are you, the man of the house now? And that's when she tells him, basically she realizes for the betterment of him that she thinks he should go with Clark Gable, and that's when she says, basically gives him tough love and starts saying, you know, I have other things to do, and you should just go there. Your uncle is coming to pick you up in the morning. So then the second time we see Clark come back here, he's in a car. He's been brought down the hill via the same road that I came down in a car, and they drive along here. And the car pulls up right here. And Clark would have gotten out, and there would have been a lady doing her wash right here on the ground.
Hey, wait a minute. How did I...
She's actually out here with a broom, and she's sweeping the walk as though, you know, she's like a good homemaker. And she's actually right here, and her broom still has the price tag on it, and Clark looks at the price tag. It's really good. He walks up and goes, well, hello, Mother Hubbard. Oh, nice price. So right here on these stairs is when she would have been sweeping it out, and they would have had that whole conversation where she says, Nando does not wish to go with you. And they have that whole argument, and as they walk out here, the lady who's doing her wash right here dumps her bucket over, trying to get Clark's feet wet. And that's where, right here, where Sophia Loren would have been sweeping, pushing him off to the side.
How did I wind up with Simon LeGree?
And you actually hear, that's when he says, you know, I'm just trying to help a boy that I happen to like, and the whole Roman Empire's coming down on me.
I'm trying to get a home and education for a kid I happen to like, and the whole Roman Empire's falling on me.
And you actually see that church over his shoulder. You can see that in the background.
Please, I got
advise you to leave.
As they're right here, and then they come walking back over to here. And when he goes to get in the car, that's when the guy who's driving the car throws his bags out and says walk. Now, like I mentioned to you guys at the beginning of the vlog, over a week and a half ago, I had never even seen this movie. Now, once I watched it, I loved it so much. You know, I think both actors do a fantastic job. It's just a well-done movie. It's a really good movie. And I've seen it probably in the week and a half, probably at least 8 to 10 times. And in fact, I was showing my girlfriend a clip of a few of the places I was gonna go, and then I said, do you wanna watch the movie? And she goes, I mean, I guess it looks cute. Yeah, I guess we could watch it. She loved it. She absolutely loved the movie. And then I told 2 Lionhearts that have been very loyal and everything. I told them that I was going to do this, and they both said they were big fans of this movie. So Jennifer and Ginger, I'm hoping you guys think I did a good job on this. And so, since I owe some people some postcards, those of you that are getting postcards from me, from Capri, I got your postcard right where the lady who dumps the wash out on his legs, right where her business was, so maybe that'll be a little bit more special to you. I'm gonna go in and buy them right now. So my goal with this movie location is, granted, I realize a lot of people probably have never seen this movie, but I'm hoping that you'll go watch it now after seeing this, and then you'll come back and rewatch this vlog and match it all up for yourself. Now this is kind of funny because in the movie they have a reference to Pinocchio when Sophia Loren's the queen of the parade. They tell Clark Gable that the man with the long nose is the king of the parade, and he goes, I flew 5,000 miles to meet Pinocchio? Alright guys, sorry I had to stop and have some lunch. Well, I just ate here at this place about, pretty close to the apartment. I would not recommend it. $4 per water, and the food wasn't very good. So actually right here is where Clark would have come at the end of the day trying to catch a ferry back to Naples to get out of here, and the 2 guys would have been working right here. The guy would have been sitting right there on that thing, and Clark said, where's the 8:15 boat back to Naples? And the guy says, oh, last boat's 7 o'clock. He says, the schedule says 8:15. He goes, yeah, schedule's wrong. Everybody knows that. And he says, oh, my cousin owns a hotel, I get you a good room. And he goes, does your cousin make the schedule too? And the guy sitting right here says, no, I do. Look at the flock of birds. All right, let's stop off and drop off my bags. It's my place, Villastriano. Also, look what's on my door. There it is. Oh, I've got my own little fountain. Look at this beautiful place right outside my door. Well, unfortunately, the funicular that they ride is actually down these stairs, but they won't let me go down there and see them. They have an exact landing like this, one below, and that's actually the one that Sophia Loren and Clark Gable come out of when they're having the conversation where he says, I can't seem to figure you out. One day you're a dancer, one day you're a church gal, I just don't understand. But if you look over the ledge, you can see down here, that's the landing. And I'll go over here and I'll see if I can't show you. This is kind of what you would have seen where they were, but they would have been one flight below. And so the camera probably would have been perched right here. So if you look down there, those are the 2 windows that we see them walk past and go out to have their moment out there on that corner. Well, our first shot of the movie from this section would have been on that tower, panning down to all the people here, sitting at tables drinking coffee, and then would have panned up to here and would have shown Pensione Belmare right there. So now let's go through here and I'll show you where his apartment was, or his hotel room. So then from here, when you see that Pensione Belmare sign right there, the camera pans over and you see Clark Gable washing his clothes, hanging them over that line.
While the Italians were home watching television. And I was doing my laundry.
And that's his hotel room, and that's where he would have that conversation with his fiance, who he was supposed to be marrying the next day in Philadelphia. Tells her that he isn't going to make it home because the ferry wasn't on time. And she hears the music that's being played out in the streets and accuses him of being out partying. And he said, oh, I've only brushed my teeth with whiskey. What he means by that is that's when he's getting ready to brush his teeth and he looks at the water, shakes his head no way, dumps it out, goes over and gets his bottle of whiskey out of his bag, pours the whiskey over his toothbrush and toothpaste, and then brushes his teeth with that. So it's 1 a.m., he's not able to sleep, so he ends up going for a walk, and this city center is hopping. And even when the camera's panning around, you can actually see that was called Cafe Casso then. So we actually see Clark making his way up here at 1 a.m. in the morning when he can't sleep. And then he comes around here, goes out here, and it's kind of funny because the town was using like all the locals for extras, and all the people sitting right here kept staring at him and the camera the whole time he's walking in. And there's a lady like right off to the side that the camera moves just in time because you see her hand go up and she's pointing to a friend of hers over there, pointing to Clark Gable like there he is. So he comes walking in here and would go turning into this section right here, and then would have taken a coffee right there. And you can actually see part of that in the background. Now that would have been pink then, part of that would have been painted pink then, but you can actually see that over his shoulder while he's sitting there, and Nando comes up while Clark's trying to drink the espresso that he hates. And Nando's out at 1 in the morning passing out flyers for Sophia Loren's dance routine. Now it's actually right here in the evening that we see after Sophia Loren and Clark Gable have hooked up for the night. We see her running out here with a big smile on her face. And they end up walking off together. So I've tried every way I can to get up there, but right up there is where Clark Gable comes out of that door to have his hamburgers. He has the room service set up a bunch of trays with all of his hamburger fixins, and Nando comes and talks to him about not wanting to go with him and saying, you know, I want to stay here because my aunt, you know, she's single and she's young and she'll get a bad reputation and I want people to talk about her.
I don't want everybody to talk about Lucia, so I stay, okay? Okay, nice guy.
I think you better sit down for a minute.
And Clark starts telling him that you make your own opportunities in life, and her opportunities are what she makes of them, but he thinks that this 8-year-old boy has a future and a smart head and wants to give him a chance at a better life, something better than just taking a horse and carriage up the hill, taking tourists, or driving a taxi. So he's trying to instill in him how important it is to go to school, and then he wants to send him to Rome, to an American school in Rome that will make sure he gets a proper education. And this is also where Nando steals his lighter. So after Nando leaves, Clark goes to light up a cigarette right there, right on the corner, right where the corner meets right here. Goes to light up a cigarette, feels around, can't find his lighter, and then looks down right here onto the ground. And right there, Nando is playing with his Zippo, and Clark starts smiling from up there. Now, I mentioned the other day that I should have known about the coffee in one of the vlogs. I said something about, oh yeah, the espresso, I should have remembered the coffee. That was because of the scene right here. Clark Gable's sitting at a table right here, and he's trying to order a coffee, and the angle's kind of more like this. He's trying to order a coffee, and the guy taking his order keeps asking him like, espresso, and he says, coffee. He says, cappuccino? Coffee! Cafe, grand cafe? What, fine, bring me whatever suits you. He goes, hey, by the way, how are people supposed to sleep around here? And the guy says, together. So the goal now was to actually take a bus to the other side of the island where the single-person ski lift chairlifts are. There's one scene, I won't be able to get that scene because it's actually in somebody's private yard, but it's, of course, since this is the off season here for tourism, they actually have those shut down, so I can't do that. I wasn't gonna be able to get the same shot anyway because it's, I think, on somebody else's property, but I was at least gonna ride the chairlifts and show you, but I'm not able to today, so I'm not even gonna go to the other side of the island and show you where that's at. Plus, it kind of makes Clark Gable's character look like a real a-hole because he's been anti everything on the island most of the time he's here, but since the lawyer makes Sophia Loren believe that he's interested in her and makes him think that she's interested in him, makes them both think they're interested in each other. After that scene right up at the house when Nando finds out that Clark Gable just basically views it as fun, they're on the chairlifts and he grabs some grapes as they're on the lift and eats it and says, "I'm starting to like this island. Even the grapes are free," and she's riding behind him and gets like a pretty sour look on her face. Our next filming location for this movie entails taking one of these boats. What we're gonna do is we're gonna film how Nando and Clark Gable went out on a speedboat together. We're gonna show all the sights that they saw, and then we're also, hopefully, as long as it's still open, we're gonna go to the Blue Grotto and show you where Sophia Loren and quote-unquote Clark Gable, his stand-in basically, jumped off the little rowboat and went swimming. It's crazy. If you look at this, you can tell how much they've redone from the movie, and they've redone this as well, so it's all cleaned up. But if you move a little further down, you can see the way it kind of was during the movie. You know what? My boat doesn't leave for another 40 minutes, so I got 40 minutes to kill. I think I'm gonna get one of those Aperol Spritz things. I wanna try one. Well, I decided to get one of these, and a little shout out to a guy who has like a travel YouTube channel with his family called Walter's World. He goes pretty much all over the world with his family and just shows 10 things you'll love or hate about a country, or things you should check out while you're there, and he has mentioned these in different vlogs, or different videos, so I figured I'd try one. I told my girlfriend jokingly before the trip, I said Italians are supposed to be very welcoming and nice, so when I get to where Lucia and Nando lived, I might go knock on that door and see if those people will just let me see inside their house. I would never normally do that anywhere else, but I'm like, maybe in Italy I will. And then when I got there, I see the doors open and there's a guy working on it, and I go in there and just like, as soon as I mentioned to him what I was trying to do, he lit up and he was like, absolutely, yeah, come on in, you can, yeah, he was so cool about it. So if any of the locations that I wanted to get into was possible, that was the one I wanted to see. We're actually going to be getting on the boat right across the street. That's the welcome statue. Look how blue that water is. That is no joke.
Like the statue of the Virgin Mary. Hallo bitte, hallo, jetzt am linken Seite, schauen Sie da oben, da oben. Aber schauen Sie auch die schöne Farbe. Aber wir sehen von hier die Amalfiküste. Die kleine Dörfer da, wo die Sonne scheint, ist Amalfis später. Schauen Sie am Ecke, da rechte Seite, wir haben kleine römische Ruinen. On voit la côte amalfitaine, le village avec des briques, dans le coin à droite, c'est des vestiges romains. Di eine große Tier, welche? Sagen Sie bitte. Alors écoutez, automatiquement.
So in the movie, they go driving that boat right through the middle of the King Kong rock.
Imagination. Le capitaine qui va y passer à Claudia. Allora, momento. Oh yeah, yes. why he's always very busy at evening time. Vous pouvez remarquer ce côté occidental ici, la côte elle n'est pas pique, et alors c'est de ce côté-ci que l'île de Capri a eu beaucoup de problèmes dans le Moyen-Âge, c'est-à-dire les attaques des Sarrasins et des pirates, arrivaient toujours de ce côté-ci, et c'est pour cela que the long the necessity of watchtowers. Via un dalbo mal grosso a Capri, des îles volcaniques, la grande
There's the Blue Lagoon. You have to go on a small boat and pull yourself in with that chain.
Including the famous Blue Grotto, where the picturesque native boatmen sing the Italian hit parade.
I'm going to switch boats and do that, hopefully. So they just said that it's usually pretty often not possible to go inside. So usually there's like a bunch of small boats waiting out there to take you in. So we can't go in and do that scene, but I'll show you the scene from the movie that I was talking about.
Mais quand même, grâce aux oiseaux qui mènent ici les grains, il y a une grande variété de végétation spontanée.
Ah, the beautiful Isle of Capri.
Aber jetzt hier unten, Sie haben ein bisschen Freizeit. So, Sie gehen die kleine Dorf durch und dann die Mauer da, schauen Sie alle diese Nummer, alle diese Nummer.
Well, gang, now that the vlog's over, I wanted to end it over here, and I wanted to kind of tell you a few things about the movie that I thought were pretty interesting. Now that you know all this, some backstory to the movie. Clark Gable was 59 years old when this movie was made, and he did not believe that he should be doing leading man roles anymore. In fact, before this movie was made, he actually did a press conference and said he would no longer be accepting leading man roles, and then for some reason liked the script, and I think personally he just wanted to come and have a vacation in Italy, and so he accepted the movie. Now, the movie had pretty poor box office or poor reviews, and here's why I think that was. The press tried to attribute it that Clark Gable was the heaviest he'd ever been. Apparently, while he was filming this movie, he developed a massive love for Italian food and packed on the pounds while he was making it. In fact, if you watch the movie, you can see parts where he's gained weight, especially the scenes in his hotel room where he's wearing that white shirt. They made it a little bit baggier to cover it up. And so they kind of attributed to that. That's not what a lot of people, though, also said. A lot of people said that the reason the movie didn't do so hot was because Sophia Loren was 25, Clark Gable was almost 60, and they thought people didn't believe it. But they also said Sophia Loren was a little bit controversial at the time because she had just married Carlo Ponti, and Carlo Ponti was already married. She had married him in Mexico, and that was a big thing. And so while she was here filming, Carlo Ponti, by law, was not allowed to be here. Now, Clark Gable and Sophia Loren did not get along during the making of this movie. For whatever reason, I couldn't find any exact reasons, but one thing that I did find was that Sophia Loren, at some point in the movie's making, accused the director of only favoring Clark Gable's good sides and only filming her bad sides, and she thought this was because of the controversy of the marriage. And so she blew up one day and said, he doesn't need the help, I do. He doesn't have to worry about his career, I do. And Clark Gable's on set and he blew up and said, I look bad from both sides, and my backside's not that much better anyway. You know, basically said something to that effect of like, I look bad from both angles and my back looks awful. In fact, he, in the scene where they're having their silhouette moment, that's a body double. Clark Gable didn't even want to be used for that. He was a little bit ashamed of his body. Now, the fact that they didn't get along, it says a lot about Clark Gable, because Clark Gable, for Sophia Loren's 25th birthday while they were filming this movie, he helped smuggle Carlo Ponti here so that he could visit her. Now, this movie was the very last movie that was released during Clark Gable's lifetime. He had said at this time that he was only going to make 2 movies after this, and that he wanted one of them to be really good. He wanted a great script. So guess what happened? While he was here making this movie, Arthur Miller wrote him and personally wrote a letter and asked him to be in The Misfits, a movie that he had written for his wife Marilyn Monroe. Clark Gable read the script and said he didn't particularly like like the movie because he said he didn't really see much of a point to it. He said it just looks like three lost souls living hand to mouth, and he didn't really see... He thought it was well written, but he didn't really see what the point of it was. The problem was, he said he was only going to do 2 movies, and he wanted at least one of those 2 to be a good movie. And he knew that this was a good movie. And the other part was that he said, even though he didn't really want to play Gay Langford, Gay Langley, he said even though he didn't want to play him, he didn't want to see anybody else play him either. And so, like I said, he was at 230 pounds when he was here making this movie, and so he wanted to drop a lot of weight, and he did to make The Misfits. The problem was The Misfits was a very physically demanding movie, and he just couldn't handle it. He was a heavy smoker, heavy drinker, and that's pretty much what eventually ended up killing him. But he accepted that movie while he was here, accepted to do The Misfits here. Well, gang, I'm gonna call it a night. I had a great day, and I literally would not have even went on this trip if I wouldn't have watched this movie. That totally inspired me to come here, and I'm glad I did. That's kind of why vlogging is so much fun for me. You just never know what's gonna inspire something to send you down a direction of what I'm gonna vlog next. So, hope you guys enjoy this, and I hope it inspired you to go watch the movie. It's a very funny movie, and it's very lighthearted. I think it's a great movie. Anyway, I'm gonna call it a night. Tomorrow I take off for Rome, finally. I'll be there for about a week, and then I'll be back home. So we're gonna call it a night. I wanna thank Stuart Chastain and Allison Swain for becoming my newest Patreons, and everyone that I owe a postcard to, after tomorrow, they'll all be sent. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.